Welcome to the Real Board Loft. I'm Trip Forman, and this is Roberts Surfboards head shaper, the man, Robert Weiner, and we are here with the Roberts Dream Maker. Robert, tell us about the Roberts Dream Maker.
So the Roberts Dream Maker is basically designed off of our Dreamcatcher model that we've been doing for quite a while now, and it's so popular. So many people love that board. It paddles well, it rides barrels, it does most everything. It's kind of like the Swiss Army knife of surfboards, but it did have, you know, the narrower tail. So at times, a lot of guys wish they had like a smaller wave version of this board. So something that we did this year is added more tail area to the board. We put a squash tail on it. We also added a little bit of V off the end of the tail right here. So it just gives it a little bit more release, even though there's more tail area. And the board has been sized an inch shorter and just a touch wider than your Dreamcatcher. So if you were riding a Dreamcatcher in say 6.0, you would probably want to order it in about a 5.11. Mm-hmm. And it was going to be like a really good complement to your Dreamcatcher. And so the reviews on this board, are the feedback that I'm getting is everyone really loves it because it's very user-friendly, paddles well, catches waves well like the Dreamcatcher was intended to do. But it also has a little bit more planing area in the tail, which keeps that speed through flat spots and makes it a little bit more of a good all-around everyday type of board, you know, that you would just want to ride and have fun, you know, surfing. And most of the conditions, you know, as we all know, are pretty small, unfortunately. So this board does that. You know.
Steven from the shop, he just took this board out at lunchtime. He took my board out, and he's normally riding like fish or like eggs or like seven plus boards and 7 foot plus boards, and he got on this board and or like, you know, whatever, like a 6.0 fish up to a 7.0 egg, but he got on this board initially thinking like, oh, this is going to be harder to ride because it's a short board. Mm-hmm. But he said it was the reverse. He said it was actually, in the conditions that were out there today, he said it was easier to ride
really
than what he's normally, you know, normally used to riding, because he wasn't like fighting the foam, and like he felt like the shape was helping him.
So there's also a little, you know, moderate rocker like the Dreamcatcher, which allows the board to still go on rail quick. That's one of the things out here. Even though it was small, it was punchy.
Right.
So
right.
A board with a little bit of rocker allows you to like fit in the pocket and then generate speed quicker. You know, the fish was great. I rode the Brofish as well, but this board was really good in those pockety little spots. And then when you did get to that reform like area that flattened out, it would glide right through those.
So what do you think wave size range is for this board?
I would say anything from like, you know, 2 foot faces up to, you know, like well overhead. Like I could ride this board with a quad setup in it in waves that are probably like 2 feet overhead. And the tail isn't so wide that it's going to spin out on a big wave, so it still will hold in, and you can ride this thing in the tube in some pretty good waves, you know. So it has a wide range of waves that it can be ridden in. Like I said, though, because the rocker is moderate and medium, it's not too flat. It will, you know, go in the pocket and get those nice quick transitions, but it'll also glide through the sweet spots.
I mean, because that's
the flat spots.
That's the type of wave we have here. I mean, like when it's crazy. Like this, as soon as this wave starts to break, it almost goes from like not breaking at all to barreling.
Yeah.
Like it just like
just
starts throwing out, you know.
And then the wave will lunge, and then it'll hit like a back off spot, and then or if the wave's broken up, you know, when you get those cross swells out here, because you have a lot of residual chop from outside that will break a wave in half, and you can literally take off on a peak and then hop over that lump and then connect to that next section and then keep going, you know.
Can we talk about, I mean, you make a bunch of like recognized high performance shortboards. Can we like compare this to a high performance shortboard and like what you're going to feel between the two?
What you're going to feel with this board is just a much easier paddling, much easier glide in, you know, like getting into a gutless wave. Because this board is meant to be ridden pretty short. Just like the Dreamcatcher, if you ride like, let's say a 6.2 with a lot of rocker in it, your high performance shortboard, you would usually ride like maybe even a 5.10 of the Dreamcatcher.
Right.
Now
right.
this board is meant to be ridden even an inch shorter than that, and the volume of this board an inch shorter should be very similar to the length the volume of your Dreamcatcher. So it was designed to be ridden short, but the feeling that you're getting is you get the glide and the speed, but because it's short, you have the radius of the turn.
Okay.
And that's the difference between a board that's more, rockered out and designed for hollow waves. Those type of boards are strictly designed to harness speed and power and control the steep part of the waves. And let's face it, most of our waves are just mediocre. California, East Coast, wherever, it's usually, waist high, chest high,
speed, yeah.
and you're trying to generate speed and just control it at the same time. That added V in the tail also will help the board control speed on the turn. What that does is it's given the board a little bit more release by releasing that pressure out of the tail. That tail being a little wider now, that little bit, it'll allow the board to really come through a turn, and then you can release out of that turn and get that really good high performance feeling, surfing it in the pockety part of the wave.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like right now there's a lot of, and I'm looking at the board, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like there's a good number of boards right now that are like new this year that are this style of board, like a wide point forward squash tail board. And I think it's helping surfers from, the WSL top of the top all the way down, yeah?
Yeah. You probably aren't going to see, too many guys on tour riding this in a pro heat because the waves are firing usually. All the heats, in
Right.
the WSL are going to be like pretty good waves. They have a waiting period and they wait for good waves for a reason. But like during free surfs and stuff, when the waves do get smaller, these type of boards are great utility boards to be ridden, to keep you really stoked when the waves are a little more lackluster. But yeah, I mean, this type of board can be ridden in the Minnowize, and be a great all-around board for that too, and just because, it has a fuller outline doesn't mean it can't be ridden high performance in good waves.
Right.
I'm just saying, like the pros, they're really into those boards that are going to harness energy and allow them to really go on rail, like on the top tour.
Yeah.
But you can do that type of surfing on this board. It's able to do it. It's just it's more of like the board for people that are going to be like just surfing every day in junky waves because they don't have that option like a big pro to just wait for or travel to good waves.
Right. Yeah.
It makes
like an at-home board.
It makes those lackluster waves a lot of fun to ride, and that's the beauty of this, It's the dream maker. It makes your horrible waves that you live by. It makes those dreams come true.
Right. Well, I know. I mean, we've had a ton of success and a big following for the Dreamcatcher here, and then also the Dreamcatcher XL, like the bigger ones.
Oh, that was another thing I wanted to say about this particular board is we came out with the Dreamcatcher Plus.
But the Dreamcatcher Plus. I'm sorry.
The Dreamcatcher Plus was designed for the bigger guys that still want to ride a bigger board and not have a fun shape or a round nose or something that just doesn't perform well. But what we've done right out of the gate is made this model and then made it in a plus size as well. So if someone wants to order a plus size, they can get the Dreammaker Plus.
Okay.
And that starts at like 6'8" and goes all the way up, I believe, to like 7'6", which is like close to 60 liters.
Right.
So that guy that just is a big guy that, I've been thinking, like the big tall shops, or they call it the big and tall shops for men.
Yeah.
You got these big guys that are, they're athletic, they're football players or whatever, and they're agile, they can surf well, they want to surf high performance, but they want to do it they need more foam, they need a bigger board.
Yeah.
So this board will allow them to do that.
I mean, you and I are not, we're big compared to pro surfers, but we're not big compared to
big football players.
Or big basketball players.
You and I both are hitting about 200 pounds, but you think about a guy that weighs 275.
Yeah.
He can still be really athletic and quick and able to surf well, but there just isn't any boards out there that will allow him to surf, because he can't catch waves on a short board unless it's bigger. So we've designed a board to do that. So.
Yeah, I mean the bigger diamonds, the Hope diamond. I mean, I had a blast on that board. Like when we would go surf together and we would take out. I mean, we surfed like the 6.8, the 6.10. I think the biggest one we had out there one day was like a 7.2 or a 7.4.
Yeah.
That day at the first jetty at the lighthouse, and that thing was a blast, man. Like every wave from the end of the jetty all the way to the beach, and like
it got kind of
like
addicting,
thigh-high
right?
waves or
like
knee-high waves.
You were catching more waves than the guys on longboard.
Exactly. So
and you were still doing turns.
And this board, like with all the updates, would be a better, even better board than
a better
that.
board.
Yeah,
I think
and
it sizes up a little better because the tail stays more neutral in width.
Yeah.
And the nose is nice and full, so when you stretch it, it doesn't get too narrow.
Okay.
So
sense.
These size up really well on the in the program, and just a blast. A lot of fun.
Well, thanks, Robert. Appreciate you running us through the lines on this board. It's the Roberts Dream Maker. If you have any questions about it, you can give us a call at the shop, 252-987-6000, or look us up online, realwatersports.com/surfing. Thanks for tuning in.